This is SiriusXM 125, the Patriot channel, and as we continue the show here, I want to bring on another very special guest here to kick off the second hour, Dr. Greg Murphy. He is running for Congress in North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District. He was the top vote getter in the first round of the primary just a couple weeks ago, and is coming up on the runoff for that, and will face off against the Democrat in the fall in the winner of the upcoming runoff between him and Dr. Joan Perry. Dr. Murphy, thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News Sunday.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
So yeah, I think we were going to have you the Saturday after the first round of the primary, and you got called into emergency surgery. So I think that's saving lives much more important than Breitbart Radio. But anyway, it's good to have you back.
I have to take my priorities, and fortunately everything worked out very well that day. But I'm sorry to miss it.
So now the reason why we wanted to have you on tonight is because yesterday you tweeted out. Quote, as I travel NC03 as a candidate for Congress, conservatives of East North Carolina share my outrage of Senator Burr joining forces with the anti-Trump resistance to go after Donald Trump Jr., a private citizen cleared by the Mueller report after testifying 20-plus hours. Time to end this madness, end quote. Now, obviously, President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., was subpoenaed by the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, it's unclear if all indications are that he's not going to cooperate with the subpoena and that the Senate is not going to be able to enforce it. But this is pretty ridiculous that the Republicans, of all people on Capitol Hill, are subpoenaing the president's family after all the harassment they've endured over the last 2 years as a result of this whole Russia hoax.
Well, as Kentucky Senator Rand Paul said, it's a persecution of the president's family. Donald Trump Jr. is a private citizen. He was cleared by the Mueller report after 20-plus hours of testimony. It showed nothing. And, there's literally nothing there. We understand that the liberal left wants to try to do anything to damage the president. They have no other issues to run on or worry about these days. But why in the world are Republicans facilitating that effort? It just makes no sense. When I talk to people when I'm traveling throughout this whole district, I'm trying to gauge are my philosophies what their philosophies are. And these folks are literally in outrage about this. It is time to move on. There's nothing there, and why we keep wasting taxpayer dollars, wasting the time and money of our country on this issue, which is a non-issue, is literally baffling. And so that's really what just drove me to tweet about this. It's just utter frustration. It's just common sense. Leave it alone. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so what we did was we put your tweet in a story that we did about this. We talked with Mark Meadows' Deputy Chief of Staff, Wayne King, on yesterday's program, and we had some quotes from Wayne King in there. And then some of the other North Carolina lawmakers who had weighed in on this. Obviously, Senator Tillis was critical of Senator Burr's decision to do this. He says enough's enough. Case closed. Don Jr. doesn't need to testify. Again, we've heard from Congressman Meadows, obviously. We've heard from Congressman Mark Walker. A number of other North Carolina lawmakers as well have weighed in on this and been critical of Senator Burr. And then, so our headline was North Carolina blowback intensifies on Senator Burr, or on Burr's rogue subpoena to Donald Trump Jr. And then somebody else tweets out the headline and then and adds, it's time for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to put an end to this malicious abuse of authority. And then President Trump just went and took that with the Breitbart link and quote tweeted it and says, really sad. So President Trump is clearly watching this too.
Right. And this is, it's just an outrage. Enough is enough. Our president is, he's doing the right thing. The man is doing what he campaigned on, and he went directly to the people and doing what he wanted to do. When he came to North Carolina, they actually asked my, little state house campaign team to set up the speakers and spread the word, and they got it done. We didn't, they didn't make a dime on this or whatever. It went to make America great again by going back to the people. That's actually been my campaign platform. It's we the people, going and taking issues back to the people, away from the federal government. And, the federal government now just seems to have lost its way. And, I mean, this is a perfect example of this. It's time we moved on and did the business of the country, not just get caught up in these political games. There's already been proof that there's nothing there, especially attacking now a private citizen. It's just absurd. And, our president doesn't need it. He needs our support. I've supported him from day one with his emergency declaration on the wall. And the man needs our support. By God, thank God, we now have a president that does and is doing what he said he was going to do in his campaign. We had how many presidents have we had? Sometimes both Republican and Democrat that make all these great promises and then get into office and then never fulfill them. Our president is doing that. To be honest with you, come hell or high water, he is a man of his word, and he's not politically correct, but he's doing what he said he's going to do. And how refreshing it is to have a president do that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And there was one thing you brought up there that I want to zone in a little bit further on, which was the emergency declaration on the wall. Because this is how President Trump has to build the wall, because Congress won't give him the money because the Democrat majority in the House is blocking funding for border security, which is just insane to me that the Democrats would do that, but that's the world we live in. So President Trump, to be able to build the wall along the border, has to use this emergency declaration, which the president has these powers. They've been delegated to him by Congress. But I don't want to turn this into a mudslinging thing with your opponent. But the fact of the matter is that your opponent in the runoff here that's coming up in the summer, she in her first interview as a candidate actually came out in opposition to President Trump doing the emergency declaration to fund the border wall. She says she supports the border wall but doesn't support that. But you have supported the president on this all along, and it's issues like this in a district like North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District. That I think, which is a very Republican district. Whoever wins this runoff between you guys is probably going to be the next congressman from this district. It's issues like this that define which Republicans get sent to Washington, which ones get sent to the big leagues. Right. How important is it on the whole border wall emergency declaration that you're with President Trump on that?
Well, I was with him from day one, from the emergency declaration. Our last 5 or 6 presidents, if you go back and look at their inaugural addresses, they speak about this issue. And they say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And what's happened? Nothing. And so our president, President Trump, finally, because Congress would not give him the money that's needed, said, look, this is an emergency. And by God, I agree with him 100% from day one. I didn't flop. I didn't change my mind for political expediency. And I said point blank, this is an emergency. I agree with it. We have drugs. We have human trafficking. We have things, gang violence, everything that's just flooding over our borders. And it finally is enough is enough. And we finally, thank God again, have a president who recognizes the country needs to be first, America first. And this is an emergency. And, again, it's not something I'm saying for political expediency. This is what I truly believe. And, if it's an issue, it is an issue. So between my opponent and I.
Yeah, and so now another big thing that's coming up, I believe this week, you will be here in Washington, D.C., meeting with several of the Freedom Caucus guys, Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, and those guys. Yeah. Can you tell us about that? What are some of the things to expect there?
Well, I have had a wonderful friendship develop with Mark Meadows over the last couple of years, and he's been truly a mentor to me. And, you look at what the Freedom Caucus stands for. It stands for getting us back to what the founders of our country talked about. It talked about we the people. It talked about power in the people, not just in a few in Washington, D.C. And this is what our president is fighting against. This is what his fight against against the swamp. And I believe, having members, like Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan and the Freedom Caucus who believe in transparency, they believe that their vote and my vote will be for the people of the district. That vote is not to be given to anybody. And this is, again, it's pulling power back to the people, resetting the American political clock that the genius of our founding fathers had, that said this in our Constitution, this is the way our country needs to be run. And we've lost our way in so many regards. We've lost our moral compass. And I'm honored to be associated with individuals that want to reset that clock and put us back on the role of government being small, pushing power back to the people, and it being transparent. So I look forward to meeting with them. We're having lunch. I'm meeting with other members of the Freedom Caucus, and I'm just, I'm honored that people care enough about their country to put their country before politics.
Right. All right. Well, Dr. Greg Murphy, where can people go to learn more about you and to get involved in your campaign if they so choose?
Yeah, that's great. I have a website. It's Murphy4 and the number 4, Congress.com.
All right. Well, that's Dr. Greg Murphy. He's a candidate for Congress in North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District in the special election that comes up in the summer. Sir, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News.
Yeah, thank you so much.